Well, hello, welcome to today's show. Now, before we start out with any one of these, it looks like you might have a Muppet treasure island, what they call these things, boom boom sticks. We have to tell you that this is not for instruction. It is totally for entertainment. There is no word either written or implied, and none shall be inferred. Now that we got that out to keep the social media police away, I have a little something. I guess I wasn't going to do this video, but I have recently done a Form 1 suppressor, and some people want to see that work. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, it just looks like everybody else is on there, on your interweb world of joy. So I was like, I don't know if I do that, but it does bring about something that might be helpful to you if you've ever built an AR9 and had a little trouble with it feeding. This might help, because on a closed group that I'm a member of, I was talking about the suppressor, which led to it's a little hinky. This particular build was a little hinky, and then one of my friends said, oh yeah, mine's just great, I love it. A friend of mine's got one that just shoots it all the time. It's just fun, cheap way to shoot an AR. And another friend said, well, I got a friend of, it's just two friends that has one, and his won't work, and it's finicky, and he has trouble with it, and I'm not going to give him any advice because he doesn't normally take my advice when I try to give it to him. So I said, well, cool. So this particular project, I'm having to use two cameras, and they are a pain in the butt to splice the two feeds and get them keyed at timed right. But I will say this project started as several projects. The first project was a lower, and I was looking at, well, how does the 70 series versus the 60 series of cast aluminum versus billet aluminum, how they cut, finished out, and I play with it. And this particular lower was made for the purpose of playing with electro etching, which, if you're a subscriber of mine, which hit the little button at the end of this, if you're a subscriber of mine, I had done, I think 2017, 18, something like that. So I did one of those. And then, of course, over here, I'll tell you about this. People seem to want to know how things are built. I don't know. But this is a local company. This is a pistol. Sure enough, it has the little thing. This opens up. This is Gearhead Works. It's a local company not far from me, right here in my home county. This opens up. We show this, and of course, it will extend out like that. Pretty handy little pistol brace. Now, before I tell you how I fixed this particular upper, I have to confess a few things. First of all, it came in, a friend of mine had built an AR9 type pistol build for his beloved at one of the holidays, Christmas or something like that. And I found it is pretty fun. I mean, it worked sometimes. But it was like $150 for an upper, less the bolt and charging handle. I got plenty of charging handles, and I bought a cheapest bolt I could find and bought the thing. And it looked like this right here. This is pretty well much it. Nearly as smooth. What do you call this one? It does not have the kind of the sportsman-y type, doesn't have a charging handle, and it doesn't need one because the bolt has no lockup. It's a blowback only, so there's no teeth there for the charge, the forward assist to work on. It was okay, but it's also black, and the receiver was in gunmetal gray, and I happen to have a gunmetal gray receiver with nothing attached to it, so I pulled it apart and put it on there. Although it does have a forward assist on it, it looks like a regular AR because it was just a standard mil spec. So I pulled the barrel and forward handle off of, handle grip, handguard. There you go. Barrel shroud, handguard. I'm not in California. The handguard off, and I just pulled these parts off, gas block, muzzle device, and put it on this receiver. Put, again, cheapest bolt I could have in there. And of course, the lower has a PMAG block in there. And mine was a little bit more finicky than his was. Anyway, I shot a little bit. It's one of those things you get to when you get to it. Went back in the gun safe. So end of 2019, I was toying with building a 4-in-1 suppressor or buying one, you know, for my 450. I hunt with a SBR with a 6.8 on one deer, and then after I shoot a deer with that, I switch over to the 458 SOCOM and I use it. And the SOCOM is fun, but boy is it loud. I mean, that puppy, even blast forward, it doesn't matter what you got, it's loud. Subsonics are still pretty loud, but you know, it's like, hey, I suppress it. So I bought a professional made suppressor, Lane, and it still held up. It's not, I wouldn't say it's in jail. I wouldn't say it's in penitentiary. I wouldn't say it's in the federal detention center. I say it's all the way down there in Gitmo at this point in time, because they have slowed up. Now, this lower does have, let's say I told you, it was one I finished up, Cerakote gunmetal gray, Gearhead works on it, and it has a 3G, Hyper Touch 3G trigger set up at 2.5 pounds, pretty light. Now, after I built this, played with it, it's okay, but now it's irritating me because now I got my 4-in-1 back, I got it built, and I want to shoot it, and it's like hanging up. So one of the things I did discover, if you'll look, I did end up changing out the standard buffer, carbine buffer, 3-ounce buffer, and carbine spring for something that's a little heavier to keep it closed up. This is an 8-ounce, just a cheapie, I think $19 at Mass something. I can't remember the name of that company. Anyway, and a 308 spring, because I had tried in the meantime the 458 and the 6.8. I use an H2 and I think it's yellow. It's the strongest spring, AR spring, Sprinco makes. And I want some, and those two slowed it down a little bit, you know, but didn't really float my boat so much. So I just decided, well, what would I do? I just go ahead and get a, rather than try to buy another expensive spring. In the description, Sprinco said, well, you know, the yellow is just under what a 308 is. So this is actually a 308 standard, cheap $7 spring that fits a carbine, AR10 carbine with an 8-ounce buffer, and it worked. And it really takes the recoil out, but you can really hear that thing when it comes in, when it slams this bolt in. Now, if you're not familiar with blowback, there are no teeth. I'll hold it up here, maybe take a picture, put it in there. There are no teeth whatsoever on it. It just holds right up against the battery. There's no battery. It's just holding up there, just slam fire. Now, got those. I'm going to put this away, and then I'll probably interlace some pictures in here, and I'll be right back because I tell you how I solved the feed. I tell you what the two problems were I thought I found, and once I addressed them, it went away. So maybe I found them, maybe I didn't find them, I don't know. Anyway, so hang with me. I'll be right back. Well, just as soon as the crane cam up there quits doing its little shaking. All right, now increase the buffer, spring, and buffer weight, and that helps some. It's just a blowback, pure blowback, no locking up. We've covered all that. Now, what I discovered was when I was looking at it, when it would jam, there were two very slight modifications I looked at and said, well, maybe this. At first, I fiddled around with the magazines, the two different magazines, a PMag and I think a ASC, a Colt. Both these are Colts. They're stick mags, they're straight. Didn't seem to favor one or the other, and I fiddled around with them back before I kind of parked it for a while. Now, after I got the 4-in-1 back and I started putting it on there, I want to make it work and I want to play with it. So I got out there and said, well, what could it be? So if it's not these things, it must be something else. Okay, I got my piece of paper square in the camera above, and one of the things that I noticed is where we were hanging up was right there as it would try to strip the cartridge up. I tried kind of shaping and widening out to make it want to click out a little bit better. But on the end of the barrel, if my barrel extension is not a very good circle, I'll do it like that. That's going to be my bore, and that's going to be the outside where the bolt comes up against it. I noticed that this particular $150 upper was something like that. It has this little area right here people called that a feed cone, and it wasn't keyed. Now if you have to get like a Faxon barrels, they actually have a key, which are pretty nice products in the past when I've used them. They'll actually have a key pin so that it will orient only that one way, and it's good. And if you have to do something with it, that would be a good barrel to have. Now I came over and I looked at the Faxon type of barrel. We'll go around like this, and it of course has a pin. There's our pin, and that was some of the difference. But one of the things that I did notice, and that's the barrel going that way. All right, on their end, their bore was about like that, but I noticed that their position of that feed cone, and I'm exaggerating it, the radius, this one on the $150 barrel upper was a little bit closer to the bore, and on the Faxon looked like it was a little bit wider. And what was happening was, and I'm going to draw another thing, the front of the, what do you call that thing, the magwell adapter is shaped something like this, and its height as it sat inside, I noticed, and the mag comes up somewhere in the back here, I noticed that this distance to the barrel was kind of big. Okay, that distance was kind of big, and what was happening was when I had my barrel, I'm going to draw me another barrel right there, and it had a small, this is exaggerated, here's my little feed ramp. When there, let's just draw this right here. Okay, let's call that the magazine up there. It would strip out of the magazine, hit the feed ramp, and then the edge of the bullet would strike here and here, not hitting that feed ramp, not the feed cone they called it. Now I noticed, like I say, Faxon, just by photographs, looked like it was a little bit larger diameter than the one in the cheap $150 one. So I suspect probably the company that was selling these knew they had some flakiness, and they just decided to sell them cheap. So anyway, that's the top part of the lower with it in there. So what I did was, on this feed ramp, I can't adjust the height of it, it's pre-made in plastic, so I did narrow the front so that if we're looking straight down on that feed ramp, instead of being like this, and the circle being, whoops, the circle being right here, the barrel being right here, hole being here, hitting that area here and the area here, I narrowed this distance in between them. I kind of pinched them up, made that front part of that ramp, because I couldn't make it be any higher, so I kind of pinched them in a little bit more inside that way with just a little bit of, and that metal is some pretty tough springy stuff. The other thing that I did, and this I'm going to make a big picture of weird right up ahead. I hope this is getting it. All right, big circle bore. Okay, let's make this the little ramp, the feed cone. Because I was striking, and I'm going to put, if you can imagine, our little ramp, and the PMAG comes up, instead of hitting here and here, I did take a Dremel tool, and I will show this with a photograph. Kind of brought this down. And it's not a very exacting thing, and just kind of smooth off this feed cone. Just dropped it down just a little bit. And I think I got a picture I can show you of that. Just brought that down just a little bit to try to catch more of that, what I perceived I saw on the Faxon barrel end, having a little bit larger cone than the El Cheapo barrel I had. And that worked slick as a bunny. So anyway, there's that. Don't do this at home. Don't try this at home. Don't booger up your barrel, because if it doesn't work, throw it away, buy you another one. But that's what I did for mine, and now it does run quite nicely. So thank you for watching. Have a great day.